Yeah, in fact, I wanted to start actually, since we threw Sam Seder's name in the headline, by going back in time. I forget, I think this was 2015, 2016.
Oh, is this about the justices?
Yep. So this is, I think, still the only time Jimmy Dore has ever actually debated Sam Seder. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this one, but trust me, it's worth watching again, at least this short clip, because, God, I mean, just Jimmy has changed in so many ways. And the fact that he is where he is now, compared to where he was here or where he was pretending to be or whatever, is crazy. I will say also, Sam Seder seems to be basically in the same place. So, we haven't always agreed with Sam Seder. There's a significant portion of issues I still disagree with Sam Seder on, including the one we debated him on, which was like kind of internet censorship, stuff like that. But you can give the guy a lot of credit for being really consistent, because he basically still has very similar takes as he did back then now. And I think he would still say the same thing now as he did then. But Jimmy Dore, you cannot say the same. He's almost a completely different beast.
Also,
now.
This take has aged like fine wine from Sam Seder. I think
yeah.
that's something that we have to point out here. Regardless of what anybody's intentions were at this point, the level of analysis that came from Sam absolutely buries Jimmy live, but it also turned out to be 100% correct, guys. We don't have Roe versus Wade protecting the women of America, or the birthing people of America, to trigger some of the, you know what I'm saying? It was a huge loss. Our justice system in this country is completely for generations, okay? And it all comes back to this and Ruth Bader Ginsburg being so selfish as to not retire during the Obama administration. But anyway, let's go ahead and play this. We can react.
During a time where the Republicans are going to control both houses. I'm sorry. It's just, it's absurd. It's absurd.
You know what I never
it's a screenplay.
You know what else I never heard of? Is that war crimes being ordered at the top of government and nobody prosecuting them. I never heard of that.
You've never heard of that? Because that has been basically the history of this country.
I never heard of our government suspending habeas corpus, which is in the Magna Carta. They did that. I couldn't believe what they
under
did.
a Republican president with Republican justices.
I can't believe we have a surveillance state right now. I can't believe you want me to vote for a candidate who was full-throated supporting going in and destabilizing the Middle East.
No, Jimmy, wait, Jimmy, I don't want you to vote for anybody. I don't want you to, listen, no, Jimmy, you're missing my point. I don't want you to vote. I don't care who you vote for. You live in California. What I want you to do is to stop offering theories about politics on your platform that are bogus, that are not.
I think I just proved to you they're not bogus, Sam. You haven't proved that they're bogus at all, except that you said it. I think I just kind of showed you how you're wrong about all this stuff, and you're voting out of fear again. Out of fear. Oh, because there might be 2 Supreme Court judges. What if there's 3? What if the moon falls into Lake Michigan? What are we going to do then?
Now, Jimmy, let's talk about risk assessment. Do you think there's a difference in the probability that 2 80-year-olds with multiple cases of cancer are going to serve out their term versus the moon falling into Lake Michigan?
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. It should have been more apparent to me as a younger person that Jimmy's not very smart. I think that's one of the things that I've realized about this guy. The more I watch him, the more I look at him, you can tell he's regurgitating talking points he doesn't thoroughly grasp. And that's how he allows himself to walk into weird potholes where he'll say, is the moon going to fall into Lake Michigan? And it's like, well, actually, dude, the thing you compared to the moon falling into Lake Michigan, it actually happened.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the reality we have now. And for Sam to just gobble him up and be like, let's talk about risk assessment for a second. I mean, it's humiliating for Jimmy. And that's why Jimmy never did another debate like this. And we even saw it when he would go on small channels like Adam and Sitch or ours or Frank Analysis or anybody. Whenever you try and get him to push, you push him on a little thing, he has no answers for you. He just will bold-faced lie, and if you call him out for bold-faced lying, he'll quit the whole program and sign off. He'll be like, I'm not going to debate if water's wet. He'll be like, oh, okay, that's whatever he says, something stupid like that. It's because he has no argument. He has no real grasp on the politics that he's saying. He's just riding whatever wave, and I think that's what's been borne out by his ability to pivot so dramatically in like a Rave Dubin style, right? In a way where he just completely turned and did a 180 where he went from being a Bernie Sanders guy to a Donald Trump guy. He's clearly just going wherever he can say something to an audience and they're going to cheer. You know what I mean? It's not about ideology. It's not about politics. It's not about building a better world. It's about Jimmy.
Yep, exactly. And, you know, I got a lot of interesting things to say about this. Before we get into the state of Jimmy's channel and the state of his whole brand of kind of contrarian commentary, let's take a look at this. I quote tweeted Jimmy the other day, or not quote tweeted, I actually just screenshotted him because I didn't want to give his dumb tweet more attention than it deserved. But anyway, I said, Jimmy and his ilk called Bernie a duopoly sheep herder for years because he didn't run as a third-party candidate. You guys will remember that. You know, Bernie Sanders obviously ran as a progressive, as a bit of an outsider, but still within the Democratic Party. Then Jimmy threw a years-long fit when Bernie dropped out in 2016 and in 2020 and endorsed the Democrat who beat him. Basically what every Democrat historically has done. Jimmy Dore never forgave him for that. He was always a duopoly sheep herder. And basically over and over again, Jimmy Dore surmised that Bernie's whole point from the entire time was actually just that he was a puppet of the Democratic Party. He was never serious. He was never actually going to win. His whole point was to whip up a bunch of third-party momentum, or not a bunch of independent, left-wing, and progressive momentum, only then at the last minute to redirect it right back in to the Democratic Party, the duopoly. That was Jimmy's main talking point.
A standard he never held Tulsi to, might I add.
Of course, yeah, he never held Tulsi to that standard.
Who he supported vocally on his show in the aftermath of Bernie Sanders, who also endorsed Joe Biden in 2020.
Exactly. But anyway, that was Jimmy's main talking point for years now. Now, RFK Jr. enters this 2024 election. Jimmy seems to like him for the most part and seems to admire the fact that he's running as a third-party candidate. But now, of course, RFK Jr. has abandoned the third-party movement, completely betrayed all of his third-party supporters who actually cared about mounting an opposition to the duopoly, unlike Jill Stein, unlike Chase Oliver, who actually care about that movement and actually care about building something that could sustainably in the future challenge the duopoly. RFK was always just self-interested, which is why he sold off his entire fake movement to the highest bidder, offering both to Kamala and Donald Trump before ultimately landing on Trump and the MAGA movement to transition into. And Jimmy's response is what? Instead of calling out that obvious and very literal duopoly sheep herding from RFK Jr., again, starting an entire third-party movement independent of either the Democratic or Republican Party, only to turn around then at the last second and
technically started in the Democratic primary, which Jimmy claims to hate. He says he can't trust anybody that's ever dared to run in the Democratic primary unless he's supporting Tulsi Gabbard in the Democratic primary, or RFK, who began in the Democratic primary and now ran as an independent and is now apparently a Republican.
Yep. Either way, Jimmy's response to RFK endorsing the duopoly was not to call him a sheep herder, but instead to himself become a duopoly sheep herder too. So Jimmy says Trump is now way to the left of warmongering Kamala. He's campaigning as anti-war, anti-censorship, anti-mandate, anti-deep state. Now with RFK, Trump is against big agriculture and corruption of the FDA, plus his idea to not tax tipped wages. And it's very, very easy to be to the left of neocon Kamala. So all of that analysis about how Bernie Sanders just pretended to be in favor of progressive and populist issues in order to be the sheep herder that he ultimately was, in Jimmy's opinion, all of that analysis has now been thrown out the window. So Bernie, he actually was a sheep herder. All that stuff he never believed in. But now that Trump and RFK are saying the things you want to hear, they are authentic. And they aren't just faking it to sheep herd people into the duopoly. No, now we can trust who? Donald Trump and RFK. You think these are more trustworthy politicians than Bernie Sanders? You really think that people are going to believe that? You really want us to believe that two Nepo baby billionaires essentially are more anti-establishment, they're more anti-deep state, more anti-capitalism, whatever, than Bernie Sanders? This is insane.
Well, of course it's insane. But what I think Jimmy has calculated is that all of the thinking people who are on the left, who are in his audience, people who are serious, people who genuinely want change, genuinely want to see leftist values be put forth progressive policy passed, what have you, right? All of those people have already, they've left his audience, right? What he knows, what he understands is that he is only valuable as the lefty who loves Trump, and he doesn't want to jump the shark. He doesn't want it to all be over. He doesn't want to lose what makes him valuable. So he'll continue to be more ludicrous. He'll continue to be more deranged, and you'll see that that's what's mandated by the right. I've got 2 clips queued up for us. One is Jimmy Dore kind of giving a full-throated, thought from the horse's mouth. Right. So you guys can watch that, talking about Donald Trump and why he's, finally going to take on the duopoly and the establishment and the deep state alphabet agencies now that RFK has joined up with him. And then I have the clip for you guys of RFK with Tucker Carlson. And you can just see how these guys have to make up deranged fantasies in order to be, under the, fucking blanket of the right wing. They have to just do this ridiculous shit. They're going to start talking a lot more about religion, right? I guarantee you Jimmy's going to do what Russell did. He's going to start talking more about religion too. We've seen
he already
on
is.
the wall.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a quick 50-second clip. I just want everybody to know that we're not making any of this up. That's not a fake tweet. This is really Jimmy, and this is how he's running his show now.
This is what this is populism. And CNN doesn't want to show you that. The Democrats don't want to show you that. And now Trump and Bobby Kennedy are miles to the left of Kamala Harris. If this message gets out, which it will, I'm bringing it to you right here on this show. They will crush Kamala Harris, crush her. All the fake, phony, empty enthusiasm that I saw at the Democratic convention this week for Kamala Harris, which is just fake. It's just based on she has a vagina and she's black. That
2 things I like better than you, Jimmy.
That's all it is. That's all it is. And people are projecting.
Yeah, I'm sure that's literally all it is. Everyone I've asked why they're excited about Kamala, they just say, well, I really love pussy.
Yeah. Retweet, bro. You are what you eat.
Projecting things onto her. You talk to anybody in that Democratic convention hall, nobody has a clue about policy and they don't care.
Yeah. So there's that. But let's go ahead and take a look at what kind of inspirational material, what fountain of content we're going to see from RFK now that he's gonna make America healthy again. Yeah, that sounds. I want to get healthy by the guy that sounds like he smoked 3 packs of Marlboro Blacks for his whole life.
Yeah, and who's running with the guy notorious for eating cheeseburgers and drinking Diet Cokes for every meal.
Yeah,
it's so weird to me because the Democrats have become subsumed in this carbon orthodoxy. And you and I have talked about this. What that's done is it's forced them to do something that you should never do if you're an environmentalist, which is to commoditize and quantify everything.
Commoditize.
So everything is measured by its carbon.
He means commodify.
Footprint, how many tons of carbon it produces. And the reason that we protect the environment is just the opposite of that. The reason that we protect the environment is because there's a spiritual connection. There's there's a love that we have. It's not about.
All right, I have to go back, and you guys have to look at this face from Tucker. The second he says spiritual connection, he's about to shoot a load in his own pants. He's like, yes, one of us. I tweeted earlier to no fanfare that Tucker's such a bad actor. You can tell he doesn't even believe any of RFK's stupid bullshit. But
yeah. Remember when they were talking, not RFK, but remember when Tucker was talking about aliens, and he said, I'm pretty sure the UFOs are actually like fallen angels or some shit, or like I think they're spiritual in nature.
You can tell he doesn't believe it, but he just says that shit because he knows his audience.
Which is funny too, because if you believe in God, then everything is spiritual by its nature. Like, you fucking idiot. Anyway,
there's a love that we have. It's not about quantifying stuff. That's what the devil does. He quantifies everything, right? And that is,
is this real?
It's real, dude.
This isn't AI generated.
He wants us doing. Put a number on it. And the reason we're preserving these things is because we love our children. God talks to human beings through many vectors, through each other, through organized religion, through the great prophets, through the wise people, the great books of those religions.
The great prophets. I think it was Tucker himself that told us Alex Jones might be one of those prophets, a modern day biblical prophet.
He's never wrong. How many times has he been wrong? I don't know. I think most of the time he's right.
But nowhere with the kind of detail and texture and grace and joy as through creation. And when we destroy nature, we diminish our capacity to sense the divine, understand who God is and what our own potential is. and duties are as human beings. And that
This is why you can't put the Bible in the science section, guys. This is why you cannot put this stupid Adam and Eve bullshit into people's minds and tell them it's science. This is supposed to be a guy that, you know what? And people that I love and trust and admire seem to have an ounce of respect for this guy's environmental movement. I haven't gotten there yet.
I think there was literally a point, like maybe before the brainworm just finished off his, last couple IQ points. I do think there was a point where he was genuinely considered a impressive environmentalist.
Yeah, I just don't think I was ever exposed to that. So now I'm looking at this guy and being like, why would I ever take you seriously now? If you were a serious environmentalist, that means you know that this is all a load of horse shit. And it's crazy because it's actually a message, guys, that is tailored specifically to the Christian right, the evangelical right, the people who have historically been the most likely to outright deny climate change being man responsible, right? And as it becomes impossible to deny our changing ecosystem, as it becomes impossible to deny that we have impacted the way our earth functions, the 1,000-year storm every 5 fucking minutes, flooding everywhere, it's 180 degrees in Mumbai, whatever the hell it is, right? When that moment ends, they have to have a mythological story prepared for these people. They have to have a way to explain it with God. Otherwise, these people are going to be like, what the fuck? You told us. No, that will lose the goodie bag, right? He's got to get into his old Joel Osteen. You know what I mean? He's trying to figure out how can if you are wearing an oxygen mask right now, okay, and you're fucking smoking your last cigarettes, and all you've got is that you hate black people and you still say the N-word, okay, but you got your Bible in one hand and a shotgun in the other. That's who he's marketing towards. And you can be like, that's me, and you're making fun of people. I can make fun of my own fucking culture all I want. Thank you. Okay. But
it's also like, on one hand, I'm part of me is like, however you can convince right wingers to believe in climate change, who cares? Like, if it's better that they believe it than deny it. So if you have to use religion and talk about God's green earth and how that's worth preserving, do whatever you got to do, right? You have to meet people where they are. Unfortunately, with this RFK line, he's like going after the concept of like talking about carbon and tracking how much carbon we release into the atmosphere. It's like, bro, you're going to need to track that stuff. You're going to need to understand science to counter climate change. Like, you can talk about religion in the context of climate change, but you're going to need science to actually fix it. You're not going to be able to pray our way out of, we can't pray our way out of climate change. We're going to actually need to address the amount of carbon going into the atmosphere in addition to a variety of other factors. So it's nice to talk about religion, but again, when it actually comes down to the solution, it's not going to be found in religion. It's going to be found in fucking science and data and actually changing the way we operate as a society accordingly. So again, it sounds nice, and maybe if you can reach a few people, that's great. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to like regulations, stopping capitalists from just destroying the earth to make an extra couple cents. Like, that's what actually needs to happen.
Right, and this is in lieu of that, right? They're talking about this as in wait until we get to the end. Have you seen this already, Gavin?
No.
This is crazy. We have to watch it to the end.
Yeah, I've seen other recent clips of RFK. That's why I was like, is this AI generated? Like, this
he
is so
offers
crazy.
a solution. You're just going to be appalled by it.
I hope what you just said, by the way, is chopped up and put all over every show.
See, if we get copyright struck, that's Tucker giving us permission right there. Fuck you.
Media platform in the world. When we destroy nature, we degrade our own ability to experience the divine.
it connects us to those 10,000 generations of human beings that were here before there were laptops. The central revelation of every.
I'm sure these guys never ride private jets or do anything that destroys the environment. I'm sure that
I only rode on Epstein's private jet because I was trying to explore nature. I was right there in that footage and we were looking for dinosaur bones.
Yeah, that's actually why they all rode on Epstein's jet. It was like kind of a carpooling thing to like save on gas, but for private jets.
You know, we would pass the 12-year-olds around like bongs, and the cruelty you couldn't imagine. It was quite something to behold. I knew when I was there I was flirting with the devil, but I had to dance. I had to taste from the water, just as my father did, and his father did, and my uncle as well.
Always occurred in the wilderness. Muhammad had to, who was a city boy from Mecca, had to go to the wilderness of Mount Hera. Buddha had to go into the wilderness, and wander for years and then sit under the Bodhigaya tree to get his first revelation of nirvana. Christ had to spend 40 days in the wilderness to discover.
Wait, are
his
Christians
divinity.
allowed to believe in like Buddha and stuff, or is that sacrilegious?
Well, Buddha came after Christ, so they believe in him.
So they
like,
do think he's real.
yes, but not a prophet of God, just a dude.
Okay.
You know, kind of
makes
like
sense.
Muhammad. Like that guy was a real guy. You could just whether or not you think he's a prophet or not.
For the first time. And his mentor was John the Baptist, who lived in a cave in the Jordan Valley and ate honey of wild bees and locusts.
Yeah,
and,
people back in the day
all
lived
of
outside a lot. That's because they didn't have as many fucking like houses and buildings and shit. They didn't have air conditioning.
Yeah,
They had
all
to
of the
live in a hut.
politics that Tucker has supported for his entire life have brought us further and further and further away from nature, I can assure you.
Christ's
So you don't have
parables
to talk about fucking religion. You don't have to start, oh, Jesus and Muhammad and Buddha. Like, how about the fucking indigenous people that were here before we industrialized the fuck out of this country and put Best Buys and McDonald's up in the place of, their homes? Like, you don't have to reference religious texts to prove your point, bro. There was an entire country with a flourishing civilization of human beings all living off of the land. Again, before industrialization, capitalism, and colonization.
Well, the whole point is to reference religion, though, because that is how they're going to engender support. The whole point is to use the mythology as a way to captivate these people. That's why he's going around, beating around the bush and making everything about religion, because that's what these evangelicals, that's what they fucking want, man. They want everything to be about God.
come from nature. I'm the vine, you are the branches, the mustard seed, the little swallows, the scattering the seeds on the fallow ground. Because that is where we sense the divine. God talks to us through the fishes, the birds, the leaves. They're all, words from our Creator. And that is why
Tucker
we
has
preserve
never
nature.
been so locked in.
It's not because of the quantity of carbon. And by the way,
I feel what you said so deeply, I can hardly even express it. Thank you for saying that.
the best
Thank you for giving me a brand new way to deny the scientific realities of planet Earth to my audience. I have been at this for 24 years, and I'd never thought up such a pipe dream. This is great, fantastic stuff.
It's just a cliche too. It's not even like some original thought. It's just like the most cliche kind of like, oh, God is as small as every mustard seed and as big as every whale, or like it's just the same crap delivered in the same uncreative, uninspired language with, as someone said, L. Ron Hubbard music in the background.
Bro, do you remember when we were in Chicago and the hot chick came up to us and we were like, oh, hey, what's up? And then she gives us this flyer and it was Scientology. I was like, they know what they're doing, bro. They know what they're doing. They're
like
getting
hot
these kids like, hey,
Scientologists,
bro.
put them all in the
Oh, I'll tell you what. You know what? If I'm a bachelor, that's going one way. It's like, oh, yeah, you can be there? Yeah, I'm not much of a Scientologist. Maybe you can convince me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm telling you what, bro. I'm being in there.
I'll believe whatever you want to do.
You know what, lady? I think over a Manhattan on the rocks, you could convince me of a lot of shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, anyway.
This thing that you can do for climate is to restore the soils. The soils are the solution to everything. The soil will absorb all that carbon and it'll absorb the water. It will stop the flooding. It'll
None of this is true.
give us healthy food.
How has no one
That's
thought
what
of
our
it?
national policy has to be.
So dumb. How stupid we are, guys. This whole time we've been talking about carbon, burning fossil fuels, LOL. Why weren't we talking about the soil, bro? It's all around us. Go outside, you'll see it. It's clearly the solution.
Touch grass. Also, I'm sorry, everybody. Buddha came before Christ. I don't know what Christians think about him. I was like, well, is this an Abrahamic thing or post-Abrahamic? I don't know much about Buddhism, unfortunately. They've never, never reached out to me like the Scientologists did. I never got the 411 scoop.
There's many hot Buddhists.
Dude, what's crazy, man, is I know nothing about a lot of the like worldly religions that haven't been hyper westernized. You know what I mean? Like basically like Judeo-Christianity or Islam. Like I remember I had my own homie growing up was Baha'i, and it was literally doing this podcast that I learned that was like the prophet that came after Islam. It's like the next and that's why they have their holy land also shockingly in Israel. You know what I mean? And you're just like,
The
oh,
Baha'i people.
yeah. I was like, I don't know what the fuck they believe still, but I'm like, well, you know what I mean? I don't know what people who are Buddhists really believe. I don't, you know what I'm
Peace
saying?
and love.
I hope
Meditation.
so. Can't be any worse than Christianity. Let me tell you what.
Yeah. Anyway, that is crazy. Do you even really understand what he's referencing about the soil thing? Because I feel like they wrapped it up pretty quickly as soon as they introduced that. They're just like, oh yeah, soil. It's all good.
Well, it's just his batshit craziness. There's absolutely no foundation in scientific reality. So what he's doing is he's basically mega church, pastoring, right? Giving a sermon, right? None of it is rooted in reality. It's all vibes driven. It's like, what can I convince these people in this pulpit? What can I convince these people in my church of right now? How much leverage do I have over them? You get a lot more leverage over these people when you start acting like you're speaking on behalf of God. Oh, nature is holy, right? The soil is holy. God will save us through the soil. Like, you could see how people who had been conditioned to go to church every Sunday and be delivered messaging
I just
like
didn't
that.
even really get like what the case he was making. Like, it's gonna trap the carbon.
You're asking for quantifiables. That's what the devil does. You need to understand. You need to have faith. See, this is stuff that they would have already covered in Sunday school. Don't ask fucking questions. Just show up, nod your head.
Unless it's about the vaccine, in which case ask all the
God
questions.
didn't invent no vaccine, Gavin. Now, let me tell you why. Okay. We know natural supplements work just as well as the pharmaceuticals.
Which is also not true.
Also, that's the other funny thing about Jimmy Dore, to bring it full circle, endorsing Donald Trump, or not. I guess he technically hasn't said I endorse Donald Trump, but we all know where this is going. He's clearly supporting him.
I actually think that he'll continue to hold on and say he's going to support Jill Stein. And
Jimmy?
then, oh yeah, I think on air he still tells people.
Said he supports Jill Stein in this election cycle. I thought he was thoroughly convinced she's an infiltrator. Peter Dow.
Oh, that's
remember
right.
He doesn't like Jill Stein.
That's right. I figured, because to me, if I'm Jimmy, I have to maintain I'm the lefty. I guess that's why he's calling Trump lefty.
Yeah.
Did he go down the Jill Stein thing too? I figured that would be
Jill Stein. Remember he tried to remember that one dude?
I haven't kept up with this man's lore.
Bro, we covered it on the show. Remember that one whiny sounding guy walked up to Jill Stein and was like, "Why won't you go on Jimmy Dore's show? I guess you don't like talking to your critics." And she's like, "Go away."
Right. We got a bunch of comments yesterday about how Jimmy was going to vote for Jill Stein and that we were wrong to call him out for that. That's why I just assumed.
I mean, unless in the last week or so he's decided to vote for Jill Stein. No, he's been thoroughly against her.
No, I do remember this one. Yeah.
So I mean,
but Socialist MMA is now speaking at Green Party events. So I'm just like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, that's maybe a feud in the making. Who knows who's gonna win out? But yeah, from everything I know, Jimmy Dore does not support Jill Stein. If anyone has evidence to the contrary, like I said, it would have to have been from the last week or so. Like if he just made a heel turn and was like, actually, I do support this lady now. But the last I heard, Jimmy was mocking Jill Stein. He was calling her an op. Yeah. He was saying that she was controlled by Peter Dow. All this crazy stuff, that she was a crazy old rich white lady, all sorts of crazy stuff. Just like with Cornel West. Remember I
definitely remember the Cornel West saga. That was crazy. Yeah. And that actually made me sympathetic for Cornel West, because I thought Jimmy was downright racist to him on the fucking mic.
Oh, 100%. Downright fucking disgustingly racist. Also, I wanted to take a look at this, guys. So obviously Jimmy's beat for the last couple of years has been vaccines and all this kind of dumb Alex Jones coded conspiracy nonsense, right? But now that most people are focused on the election, there's actually a lot more money to be made and just pumping out pro-Trump propaganda than there is in talking about Dr. Fauci or whatever. So I actually think this is one of the big reasons why Jimmy's going to make a very concerted pro-MAGA pivot in the next week or so. I mean, it's already timing
too, because the MAGA movement's going out the door. What's he going to do after this is over?
It is bad timing, but it's all about that short-term profit. He'll figure out, 6 months from now what pivot to make next. But look at his views, guys. It's actually not great. So lately, Jimmy's videos haven't been doing amazing. This one from a day ago, 63,000, 65,000, 94,000, 45,000. This one got 163,000. So that's a lot. But here we have 55,000, 35,000 from 2 days ago, 20,000 from 2 days ago. These are almost all of them are under 100,000. And I know this looks like a lot of videos compared to how many views we get and stuff like that, but it's definitely not exactly what Jimmy's used to. I would say, I feel like he's definitely, experienced a little bit of, a lack of relevance, a bit of fall off. Yeah. That he's not used to for the last, basically for as long as we've run this channel. He's really been an influential content creator. Unfortunately, people respond to what he says, and he has an ability to control the discourse, at least within this little niche. Again, he has the ability to piss people off. In the last year or so, just from our personal anecdotal experience, I've noticed that almost everyone has totally just stopped caring about Jimmy Dore, at least on the left or the, progressive, populist, independent media kind of area. It seems like it's totally dried up, and he really is just now like going for the Alex Jones crowd.
Oh, 100%.
Well, guess what? The Alex Jones crowd is 100% pro-Trump. 100% pro-Trump. And if you're going to be talking about Dr. Fauci and shit, they don't care about principles, right? They don't care if, well, actually, it was Trump that did Operation Warp Speed. Oops. It was actually Trump that oversaw Dr. Fauci's reign of terror and all this crap, right?
There was not a single lockdown outside of the Trump presidency.
Exactly. Trump is the lockdown leftist and all that crap. That Jimmy Dore calls everyone who's a progressive a lockdown leftist. That's your guy. That's Donald Trump. He did the lockdown. He did Operation Warp Speed. He did the vaccines. He did Dr. Fauci. Everything you constantly moan about, you just endorsed that guy. But again, the Alex Jones crowd, the deranged right-wing conspiratorial crowd, as much as they claim to care about all that stuff, as much as they claim to care about Dr. Fauci and the vaccine and the World Economic Forum and the deep state and Julian Assange and all that crap, they don't give a shit. Ultimately, what they want you to do is pump out pro-Trump propaganda, which is why Jimmy Dore is pivoting into doing exactly that, even though he knows it's wrong, even though he knows that the Republican Party is not a populist party. He knows all of that stuff. But again, he's going where the money is, and he's going where the attention is.